strike by the country's 1.3 million public servants is looking more and more likely. Unions, both those that fall under COSATU and the Public Servants Association, have rejected government's 3% offer. That's for nurses, teachers, police. The Joint Mandating Committee saying workers want a 10% increase. Now, inflation is currently at 7.5%. Government's wage bill makes up a third of government spending, and the Finance Minister has been clear, keeping increases low in the public sector is a crucial element to keeping our economy running. So it's a hot topic as we run up to Wednesday's mini-budget. Let's speak now to Simon Hlongwane, who is part of the Joint Mandating Committee of COSATU. Thank you so much for joining us. So the Public Servants Association, which of course is separate to COSATU and unions under COSATU, it has about 250,000 members, I understand. Today they filed a notice to strike. Has COSATU also filed a notice to strike?
Well, thank you for having us, and let me greet your viewers. Well, where the process starts is not starting with filing. So I will not talk to the other unions that we work together or were together in the council. However, the process is such that currently, because the employer has withdrawn the offer on the table, that we managed to push them to offer a 3% during facilitation. They've officially withdrawn that on the 28th of September. And having done that, it led us into declaring a dispute and filing, which means that we are using the mechanism provided in the Constitution of the Council, PSCBC, that is a dispute mechanism or dispute resolution mechanism. And the PSCB has set down a date for conciliation, that is the 31st of October and the 1st of November. Only after the outcome of conciliation can the conciliator give us a certificate to strike. So only after that process is then that you can talk about a notice to strike, but with the balloting as well as the notice to strike as the process. So currently, insofar as the JMC and the COSATU unions is concerned, we have not arrived at that. We are still in the process of conciliation. This is why today we were launching our program that is going to help us to build up in the mobilization of our members towards the conciliation date of the 31st. So that's where we are, as it were, and not necessarily beyond that process.
All right, so what I'm understanding is that the Public Servants Association, which is not part of COSATU, is much closer to going on strike than COSATU is. There's still quite a lot of steps that have to be taken. So I want to speak to you about what SATU said, which is a union, the teachers' union, that does fall under COSATU. SATU was public in saying, we will accept 3%. So how united a front is COSATU? Don't you think SATU is perhaps being more realistic about what government has to offer?
Well, I must maybe just to remind you that within COSATU, it is not the first time that unions within COSATU may not have different, the same mandates. Remember, our mandate is given by our members who are different members of different standing, as you would have mentioned, the teachers, the nurses, the police, general workers, and so on. Last year, if you may recall, the mandate of COSATU unions, 2 of us have signed and 2 of us have not signed, which means even last year there were 2 different mandates. So the approach we have is that we respect a mandate of the members, because you cannot go against the mandate of your own members, not unless you go and engage your members and convince them otherwise. So
just explain this to me.
That is not a strange thing. It has always been happening.
I don't understand it, though, because the joint, which means together, mandating committee is apparently asking for 10%. SATU says they're happy with 3%. So does that mean that SATU can sign even though the rest, like POPCRU, doesn't, for example? Is that how it works?
Okay, let me also explain the processes that was undertaken within the council. When the employer offered us through facilitation a 3%, there was a draft resolution which, according to the Constitution, must circulate for 21 days.
Right.
Should that draft resolution receive majority votes or majority signatures, which is 50% plus one of the council, it will then be called a resolution. But after 21 days, there were no signatures to give majority effect of the resolution. Therefore, there is no resolution which has been accepted
So
by a
no one's
majority
actually
of
accepted.
unions.
Am I right in
However,
understanding? Because I'm battling to
I was
understand.
trying to.
Yeah, very quickly.
Okay.
I want to see if I understand you correctly. Yes.
Okay. I was trying to say, however, the fact that there was no acceptance by 50% plus one, the employer chose the route of taking the draft resolution to fall away, which means it doesn't exist anymore.
I see.
Which would then say there is no longer any offer which the employer has given in council. It's only the employer that talks, we are, as you are aware, outside to say they will unilaterally implement. But
Okay,
it means they will implement without a resolution.
I'm with you, and that has happened before. I'm just trying to understand because it's I'm not seeing a united front at this stage. But I want to ask you a bigger issue, and this is I was speaking to Colin Coleman, formerly of Goldman Sachs, and he's saying the last thing government must do is to offer you more than 3%, because it's a bloated workforce, it's an inefficient workforce. Productivity is low. You walk into any government hospital, police station, many schools are just not functioning. There's not enough bang for your buck as a taxpayer when you look at the performance of the civil service. And the reality for many South Africans is they don't get efficient service at the transport department. They don't get efficient service if they go into a state hospital. What do you say to those taxpayers who ask you, why should you get more than 3%?
It is my wish that you can also ask the same thing, or you could have asked the same thing when parliamentarians gave themselves a 3% and backdated themselves for 2 years, because the money comes from the same fiscus. It doesn't mean that parliamentarians are getting money from somewhere else.
There's a lot less parliamentarians.
And
there's a lot less parliamentarians, and I think you're right. The question should be aimed, but I'm asking you the question on behalf of like so many thousands of public servants.
I do wish you can listen to my answers before you interject, because that way we can have a better dialogue than if you interject all the time. Because I was driving a point that I'm going to respond to your specific question, and also reminding you that we have a concern that parliamentarians are given and nobody raises a question. However, I would dispel your notion that there is a bloated public service or public servants. When you talk of the bloated public servants, you must demonstrate in terms of statistics. And the statistics is such that in the past, when we had 46 million population, we had 1.3 million or more than 1.3 million public servants. Currently, we're talking of 60 million population in the country. The public servants are not more than 1.3 million. So when you say bloated, I do not know what comparison you are referring to. When over and above that, the demand for services has grown. That included the burden of disease that we have in the country. Hence, you see a lot of shortages in all areas, and even services cannot be expanded due to that reason. You can talk about the economic performance. We have made our own offer to say the money that we have saved through the government employee housing allowances, which is more than 12 billion. We are offering it so that government can release and do their part by creation of a government employee housing scheme, so that that money can be beneficiate the housing development as a whole, the whole value chain. In other words, we are committed to improving economic performance and reviving our economy as a country, because once money circulates within the hands of the people, whether you are a builder, a brick producer, a window producer, whether the tiles producer, it means everything and the economy will then improve. So it's our commitment to offer, to say we are willing to improve such things. So overall, over and above that, we know we have a lot of systemic challenges in the country, which we are committed to deal with and address. Only if we can have an open dialogue and together we solve the problem is what will assist all of us. But that does not take away the fact that public servants have not received an increase in 2020, which was was caused by the fact that government reneged from its own commitment, and public servants have not received an increase that is against the baseline in 2021, and right now they have not received any increase. Over and above that fact, we all know that electricity prices have increased, transport prices have increased. For public servants that are going to work, it is equally the same, including the cost of living in terms of the food prices, including your cooking oil. You can't say public servants don't use the same cooking oil, which has gone triple the price that it was in January. You know, you may not know if you don't use basic cooking oil that was around 34 rand. Currently, we're buying it with more than
I mean, we're all aware of
120
costs
rand.
going
So
up, but I hear your point.
Let us all be realistic.
Yeah, so you're saying it's not bloated, there's a lot of people to cater for, and people, I think there's a lot of lack of trust within the civil service because that third year of the wage deal was reneged upon. So it's going to be interesting to see. Certainly what I'm hearing, of course, is that COSATU is not as close to going on strike as the PSA, but certainly that's a story we'll keep a close eye on. That was Simon Hlongwane, part of the Joint Mandating Committee of COSATU. Let's now